I'm Dr. Leo Powerson. Today we're going to talk about hemochromatosis, and that's when you have too much iron in your blood. It can cause circulation problems, heart disease, and it's a treatment that I learned how to do recently because recently I learned how to work on there's three motor cortexes in the homunculus area, and they did a study on over 7,000 MRI scans on people, and they found out that instead of one motor cortex, which was from 1948, in 2022, they found out there was three motor cortex. One's connected to the toes and foot and lower extremity. One's connected to the fingers and thumb and hands and upper extremity, and one's connected to the tongue and the eye. And last year I learned how to connect those three areas, and in the paper they said that if you could work to connect those three, that it would help with heart conditions, stomach conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, etc. But this was a case where they had higher level of ferritin in the blood, and so we worked on the toes, on the flexion, extension, and then I learned how to do the cranial work back in 2000 for one of my sons had a learning issue and got help within 90 days. And so what I did was I moved the toes down like this, and then felt the motion in there, and it was restricted here and here. And so we worked on those. It took 2 visits for coming down and 2 visits for coming up. And then there was a couple more visits tied in with the primitive kidney area. And the kidney adrenal area has to do with cortisol level. And when the cortisol level is higher, then you don't digest your food quite as good. And so that's cortisol. And so the adrenals sit on top of the kidney, and there's 2 parts of the adrenal, the inside of the adrenal and the outside of the adrenal. The inside's the medulla, and the outside's the cortex. And so that was treated along with the flexion extension of the toes, that part of to give it endurance in here, and then the part of the brain that has to do with endurance is the top of the head, right through here. And so this is where it all drains off of from the 3 thinking lobes of your brain: the frontal, the temporal, and the occipital. This is the visual center, then the hearing and balance, and this is words and language. And so anyway, so we did the treatment, and then we needed to do the tongue-eye treatment, which involves connecting the tongue and the eye to the fingers and toes. And so with this treatment, then what you do is part of it, the first one is you touch your finger and thumb like this, and then you have to stretch your tongue and then also your eyes at the same time. And so there's 3 parts to this, one with the tongue to the right, like that, and the eyes to the left. And so when you stretch the eyes, what happens is that there's optic nerves that go across the pituitary gland. That's the master endocrine gland in the body. And then when you move your tongue, then that has to do with the hypothalamus. And so it helps the metabolism to turn on, connected to the hands and the foot. And so it's a series of 9 visits where you're touching fingers or toes, and then you connect those 3 motor cortexes, and then that takes stress off the cortisol level, and then the kidney adrenal area gets less stressed, and then you digest your food better. And so the thing with ferritin levels, a lot of it's tied in with the spleen, and the spleen connects with the big toe, because the spleen, pancreas energy is on one side and then the liver's on the other side. And so when you unlock this part right up in here with the toes, it unlocked the stress to the liver and the spleen. And then the spleen is right over here underneath your left side. And so it breaks down the old red blood cells so you can recycle them. And so, and in this particular case, there's only one case, but in this particular case, their ferritin level went back down to a normal level, and it was very elevated for years, and it wasn't getting better. And so the treatment, a lot of times they have people donate blood more regularly so they can get that extra ferritin out, because it does cause some circulation problems. So in this case, they didn't have to do that. They got the treatment and then they got better. So we're in Plover, Wisconsin, and that was Powers Chiropractic, 715-341-7102. And we wouldn't know for sure if you would get help, so you need to get checked and check these points on the foot to see if they're out of balance or in balance. And if they're out of balance, then there hopefully would be help for you, related to this.